Good afternoon and welcome to Flat Earth Debate with me, Nathan Oakley. If you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live show, and if you'd like to join the debate live, there is a link in the info box below this video. Simply click on that link and watch page muted. Join the show to express your views, for the moment at least, entirely unopposed. Hopefully we will get various different characters and people who join the show to express their views. There are only two rules. The first being, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be asked politely to stop, and then if you continue, you will be ejected from the hangout. The second is, if you are ejected, you will be warmly welcomed back on the second show. So the second rule is, if you are ejected, please do not rejoin. You will be welcomed back on the next show. With that, I'm going to transition across to my photographs. Guess the movie. So guess what movie that is. And in the meantime, I'm going to share the show on Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and all those various places. If you are currently in the live stream, I would encourage you to do the same. So please share the show on Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and all of the other social media platforms that are available to you. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. We do have a couple of people in our live chat room, so I'll do a couple of shout outs. I've just finished sharing the show on Skype, in all the various different groups I'm a part of, and Facebook and Twitter. So with that, I'll say hello to Richard Bally. Good to have you. Says hello and good afternoon. Presumably a Brit. XANH. When did this start? Just now. Good to have you here in the chat, though. Thanks for being here. And David Quintana, or Cigar Face TV, DQ. Good to have you here. There's Moom99. So there we go. Thanks for being here, all of you. If you are... Oh, we've got one more straggler. Angel Hoosier Nook says hello, Nathan. Good to have you here as well. If you could do us the service of sharing the show on your social media platforms, that would be greatly appreciated. And I may try across to see if I've actually got the chat feed running. So yes, I'll do another plug. If you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live show that's running right now, so feel free to use that. And if you would like to join the panel live, there is a link at the top or somewhere in the middle of the live streamed chat feed if you'd like to click on that, or if it's later on and I haven't actually got it in the feed because it's all flown by with the chatters, there is a link in the info box below this video. So there's only a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you will be booted. And the second being, if you are, please don't return until the next show. So fairly straightforward and simple rules. So one last time, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you'd like to join the panel, click the link in the info box below this video. Been joined by The Rig in the chat, who says hello as well. Hello, The Rig. Good to have you here. Richard Bally says, I think it's time for a really good cup of Joe. Back in 5 minutes. Yeah, I don't blame you. There's often, at the beginning of these shows, prolonged periods of dead air with me just talking nonsense to the chat. I may as well actually put this disclaimer in, so for people who I do want this disclaimer to go out, so I'll put me on camera. My purpose in being here is not necessarily to debate the shape of the Earth. If you want to see my views and opinions on that, there are many of them on the 800 or so videos across my two channels, Nathan Oakley 1980 and Nathan Oakley. So on those two channels you'll see plenty of video logs, interviews, group shows, you name it, all about Flat Earth, and I express my opinion in abundance. Although it's difficult not to on this particular show, my purpose is not necessarily to express my views, it's only to keep people from swearing, and that's pretty much it, because for me, swearing indicates that somebody's agitated. Some people just say, well, it's just the way I talk. Well, yeah, it's just the way you talk when you're agitated. So when I say to somebody, please stop swearing, it's a friendlier way of saying, you're getting please stop getting agitated. It just tends to be the case by saying that you will actually annoy somebody more. So those two rules are fairly strictly enforced. I'm not going to lie, I'm becoming more strict as I do more of these streams. But yeah, so please don't swear. That's pretty much it. As far as anything else goes, yeah, trolling, fine. I want to show how people interact, and there's lots of trolling. So if you want to come and troll another participant, you, in my opinion, make yourself look bad. But if that's your bag, then you can come on and do that. Same goes for people who just want to spout rhetoric. If they want to come on and just express exactly how they see the world, then they're more than welcome to do so here. It may, at least at the moment, while there's just me here, be completely unchallenged. Chances are I'll just go on mute as soon as somebody joins, maybe a little bit of chit-chat. But on the whole, certainly Jonathan Roberts, who's been joining, he's joined a couple of streams now at the beginning, has had his opportunity to express exactly how he sees things, completely unchallenged. So yeah, these opening times for anybody who's in the chat. Agent Detective, who says F you. Yeah, you're welcome to chat nonsense in the chat, or swear in the chat, or use bad language in the chat. It does get broadcast, but that's not the reason why I'm stopping people from swearing. It's not because I have any any aversion to people using the F word or the C word or whatever. It's because it tends to indicate people getting agitated. And on a debate platform, that's almost always, in some cases. So yeah, that's the reason, not because I've got some sort of delicate ears that can't stand hearing swearing. Far from it. Yes, there is bad language on some of my other shows, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it. But there's certainly been no complaints in the comments of the last or the preceding 13 debates. No one's moaning that I'm enforcing this one and only rule on the show, because once the first rule has been enforced, the second rule, it doesn't really apply to the show because they've been kicked. So yeah, there's really only one rule: please don't swear. But yeah, like I say, if you'd like to join at the moment, click on the link in the info box below this video to express your views on the shape of the Earth, be it sphere Earth, cell Earth, hollow Earth, concave Earth, whatever you want to call those. Pretty much the same things, and of course flat Earth, which is my bias, but yeah, I'm not here to express that. That said, I do reserve the right to, should there be a moment that is necessary in my view to express my opinions, or like yesterday when Pete Shea was sort of struggling to articulate something that he and I had, although it transpired I didn't know at the time, had both seen. It was easy to do that after about 10 minutes of arguing back and forth between a globehead who presumably also knew the same thing, curved water. I shouldn't really use the derogatory term globehead. Mainstream heliocentric believer. So yes, so that is a time that I'm going to use my discretion in terms of putting my opinion in. It's standard fare in terms of what I'm putting out there, I think. I'm not putting anything controversial or new. It's just opinions that have been expressed by others and are understood by many of the flat Earth community who are, in that. And sometimes I've done the same. I'm sure if you went through the last few streams, you'd see that I've had to put my opinion across for the globe head view on a couple of occasions as well, and check some of the flat earthers. I think the same applied to Pete Shea when he was saying that something was using trickery, and it was just a photograph with a superimposed photograph of I think it's the Sears Tower. I'm not 100% sure. I'm British, but yeah, he was calling it trickery, and it's not. Obviously it's just demonstrating what it's demonstrating, and using two photographs is the only way to illustrate that. But that was the point that we got to. So I don't know, I'd like to think the audience think I've been fairly even-handed and reasonably unbiased in my moderation. I tend to not say much at all. Enough about me. I can only waffle about me. You're free to do the same if you join the platform now. I would, of course, keep my mouth buttoned while you expressed your views. See if there's anybody else who's joined us. Says good day, presumably Australian. Thanks for being here. Very much obliged to have you. Life TV. Why are you not at the conference? Because it's probably about 7,000 miles from me, and I can't afford to fly over there, and that's the bottom line here. I'd have loved to. I tried to convince my wife to scrape the pennies together between us, and with a newborn child at the time, when I was trying to convince her, she was not having it. But I did try, and I was very keen, and I was devastated that I'm not there. I'd love to be there. I have watched plenty of it since it's been stolen and broadcast by other people, or live streamed by other people, which they're entitled to do. And I've watched some of I Spy NASA Lies streaming of the event. Good fun that it was. Hoodwink33, thanks for being here. Nice to see you. How do I donate? I don't trust Super Chat. That's my only facility to do so. Martin and I, or Flat Earth British, Martin Leaker and myself have had this conversation a few times. He gets approached with people asking literally to give him money, reasonably infrequently, and he's embarrassed. I've offered him money for various different things in the past, and he's just said no and given them me, which is nice, very kind. I've done the same. I've sent him various different things which have been useful for his videography, and it's not like I'm charging him. The same thing applies, but the fact remains that I and others have offered Martin money. I'd rather do it in the third person than use myself, if that's okay. Whoever asked, Hoodwink. So yeah, it's one where with the super chat, I'm sure that Google do take a percentage, but it's nice and simple. It's fun. You can just put a nice big message that comes up in bold type with a great big block of colour around it, and it does support the channel. It goes towards the ad revenue. The purpose in making the videos is, for me, to express my views on the shape of the earth, and my time does unfortunately need to be monetized. I live on a fairly tight budget, so yeah, dedicating 10 times as much time to YouTube to earn the same amount as I could in my regular job delivering shopping is much more preferable, even though it's a lot more work, time, effort and everything else, but I still do need it to be monetized, and Super Chat just goes into that pot. I like Super Chat. It's what YouTube are promoting. Every other YouTuber promotes their Super Chat. Why not? So yeah, as much as other people like Theora Hypothesis just gives out his PayPal information, which is, it's my email address. Not that I'm going to give that out here because I don't want to encourage that. It might be the case that in the future I do encourage people to do it that way. I doubt it. I don't want people at this stage to be donating direct to my PayPal. That said, I have had somebody who's done exactly that, who got in touch with me directly and said, I want to give you money, and was extremely insistent about it, and they did, and it was extremely helpful. It's one of those times that people would praise the creator and say that in times of need, when you are strapped or have a bill that you can't cover, somehow the Lord provides. Now, I don't necessarily subscribe to that view. In this case, a YouTube subscriber provided. It was an individual and not the Lord, but that person did donate to me. But when it comes to a few quid in the Super Chat, I'd rather it was just exactly that than people getting hold of my contact information and email address to donate to PayPal. So that's just, that's how YouTube have promoted it. I'm a YouTuber. I'm going along with what they do. So, I'm not going to shout it out in my other shows, but in this show, it's constantly demonetized. I have to battle with them to keep them monetized. The 50% of the time that it's out new, they're not, which is unfortunate. While they're live, they are, which is great. But that's why I promote the Super Chat in it so much, because these shows, of all of the ones I do, make the least money, and that may seem mercenary to people. I don't care. I've tried to make money on YouTube from videos for 10 years. The fact that this one's making them and I'm as passionate about it as any other videos doesn't change my inclination to make videos, but unfortunately we all need to survive, and everybody knows that who's reasonable. Some people who are unreasonable say you shouldn't monetize the truth. Frankly, I don't care. It's my channel, it's YouTube's platform, and I'm using the tools that are available to me, Super Chat being one of them. So donate to my Super Chat now. Hey, yeah. Anyway, that was that. See if anybody else has joined. Jovan Trendmaker, thanks for being here. Nice to see you. Jonathan Roberts, former debater, good to see you. You've been an absolute superstar, my friend. Thank you for being in our chat. I think with that we might leave a bit of dead air in here. I don't think anybody else has joined. I think I've said hello to absolutely everybody. So I'll duck out after a little link. So if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a Super Chat that runs alongside the live show, and if you'd like to join the debate live, there is a link in the info box below the live stream. Please mute the watch page, the page you are currently watching, before you join and click that link. Other than that, there are only two rules in the Hangout. 1, please do not swear, and 2, if you are ejected for swearing, you will be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. So with that, I'll say once more, if you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. asked in the chat by Angel Who's Your Nook. Nathan, do you believe that the Earth is rotating? No. I think that the sun, moon, and stars move above my head as they appear. Hope that satisfies you. Have a few new people joining us. So Dawn Treader UK says he does, he just pretends he doesn't. No, Dawn, incorrect. We've also got, let me get this right, Blut Engel Reich Mir die Hand. Okay, good to have you here. Thanks for being here. Cigar Face TV says, why did Morgul skip the conference? I don't know, is the answer to that. We may see an answer in the chat, most likely speculation. A few of the people who I do know are at the conference that I'm in reasonably good touch with have said that they haven't got an answer either. Several of them have tried to get in touch with him via cellular and have not managed it. So I don't have an answer, and neither do the people I know. Thanks for joining us, Frank Black. Good to see you. Agent Detective says, Nathan, are you going to start your own 501c church? I don't really know what a 501c church is, though it's the second time I've heard that. Oh, got Asa Mahalski? Sounds like him, am I right? Let's have a look.
A 501c3 church, I'll teach you all about it.
Badass! I knew it was you. One word.
Fuck yeah. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? How you doing, man? I'm glad you're on.
Me too. How are you, Asa?
Oh yeah, man. Good, man. Good. I keep missing these debates. I get up. I'm still out here in Denver. Denver's fucking awesome. And
what time you got?
I just keep missing it. What do I got out here? It is 5:57 over here.
You up or not gone to bed yet?
No, I'm up. I usually wake up. Pretty early, man, and then I'll take it. Like I might hang out with you for a little bit, and then maybe go back to bed for a little bit too.
Cool.
But I wanted to say I was watching the conference yesterday from Thank Candy. I wonder if everyone's pissed off with Candy in that camp. But shout out to Candy for hosting it, because
why would anybody be pissed off with her?
Well, I know people were paying to watch the live stream and this kind of stuff. I didn't know if it was, I didn't. Yeah.
Nah. If you're paying to watch the live stream,
I was like, damn.
What you've got is you've got perfect cameras, steady, what they called, tripod mounted, nice cameras, really crisp stream, audio direct from the desk. That's what you're paying for. That is worth paying for if you want to actually hear what's being said. And no disrespect to Candy, because I've watched her stuff and I give her a thumbs up, and I was like, I've just plugged her at the beginning of this show. Brilliant, really well done. I Spy Nasal Eyes, check it out. But she's an amateur. No disrespect to her, she's an amateur. I'm sure she would be the first to admit it. So she's getting her angle right and she's zooming in and stuff. That's not what people would pay for. So by that token, in my view, she's perfectly entitled to do that. She's bought a ticket and she's promoting it. Good for her. And I'm sure everybody would thank her and not say bad things about her. I'd hope not.
Yeah, cool. I'm happy to hear that. I feel the same way about it. It's like, I did see a clip that went up of the conference from that feed, and it did look great. So, and congratulations on everybody who went. And I got to say, after coming out here to FEMA camp too, and kind of assuaging some of the fears that I had about coming to meet people and like, and actually it's so crazy. Like right now, I mean, we've got pretty much like a FEMA campsite over at this other guy's house right now. Where so like we've been waking up and going and playing music all day over there. And really just like it's just so crazy how how almost like there's all this conversational stuff that doesn't have to happen. And I think that's the most fascinating part about it is that you actually it's all the things you don't have to talk about that are actually make meeting other flat earthers so meaningful to me anyway. And I wanted to give a shout out to Carly Sunshine, who fucking handled whatever agent that dude was at the end of one of the conferences, the Q&A. This and this is the thing too for people who are, I mean, 'cause I guess what sparked me wanting to come in here even was Cigar Face. Shout out Cigar Face asking about Morgal, and I could see like if people maybe were a little un or hesitant to go to these conventions with all the drama that was swirling around them the couple days beforehand, and I felt it too. Even with FEMA camp, I even was kind of close to the vest about whether or not I was going to attend. And But I realize now that it's there are so many beautiful people. I mean, there was people there that had no idea what a penguin was.
No idea what a what?
No idea. We were at FEMA camp, and there was just people that were there that didn't even know anything about IPS. They drove miles because they heard it was a flat Earth meetup, and they were going to support whatever the hell was going on. And it was just such a beautiful thing. But I wanted to say this, Carly. Some gentleman had got up and he said, "What are we going to do about the enemy?" And Carly, God bless her, man. She handled it like a champ. She was just like, "Well, we're going to teach everyone about love and forgiveness." And I was just like, right on, man. Because what, like, some of these people want is they want to make us appear as silly, crazy, and potentially violent. And I thought Carly just, totally disarmed him and the loaded question that the gentleman had asked. And maybe he was sincere, maybe not, but it did seem a little odd to be asking that kind of question. Did you catch that by any chance?
I didn't catch it obviously live, but I've heard plenty about it, and I saw Patricia and Carly and Stephen Chess and Ukdina and a few others in one of the chat feeds sort of talking about it. So I'd got a pretty good idea what was going on, although I hadn't actually seen it live, obviously.
Awesome. And I will say Bob from Globebusters did a hell of a job. What do you call it? I got to meet him over here in FEMA camp. I know he was really worked up over, he was really adamant on making sure everything went well. And I loved his presentation. And I don't know, what a good, I mean, I'm real happy for everybody. And David Weiss, what a champ, man. That guy, he held it down too. So it was, and the drone footage and the billboard and well done. Great job, everybody.
Yeah, it was. Kudos to all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking while you were talking about FEMA camp and people sort of carrying it on, like a sense of community, a proper sense of community, real sense of community. That's what going exponentially larger or reaching the masses, or however people phrase it, going mainstream doesn't maybe apply, but that's what it's all about. It takes a little snowball a long time to actually gather a bit of momentum, and when you're at the point where there's people congregating in groups, that's heard of more widely than just this little corner of YouTube that we have at the moment. And it's fantastic to see it happening. To be a part of it, for me, and obviously for you, it makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It's amazing.
Oh, I agree, man. I agree. I mean, I actually even, especially looking up to guys like yourself and and just come as the natural chain of events, it's like I'm really so honored to be a part of it because like I had no idea, the potential of coming out here and meeting a bunch of crazy flat earthers. So, I mean, I love you. That's why the crew is always going to have my respect because I wouldn't have even stepped into this arena had it not been for the kind of gateway that you guys just by having your sun tracking and having experiments where people can get involved, and then before you know it, you're in conversations you've been waiting to have forever long. So I'm really thankful for it, man. It's been good.
I was pretty strict on the sun tracking, so I was always just focused on gathering the information. I wanted my purpose in it was debunking heliocentricity and saying, the Earth is not spinning around this sun, and the way that they have it measured and tracked out doesn't match what we actually observe. But we had to absolutely had to observe that in order to state that, in my view, which I can now
Right,
can. But
that's
during the show, we had various people who I've apologised to in the aftermath. People like Sean Hufford, who had set up quite an extensive experiment and really wanted to show it us. And I think if I was to do it again, I would have let him. But in that particular moment, I was like, no, what I've asked people to present is sunrise, sunset, that's it. And he was like, yeah, but I've got all of the correct measuring tools for showing that it is heliocentric from my location. I was like, I don't want that. And the same went for
Well,
when
first
people...
off,
Go on, sorry.
we know that that's almost an impossibility. And second off is, the idea that what's beautiful is that maybe Sean didn't get to do his little experiment on your show, but what did happen was you activated a bunch of people that had no other call to action. Like for myself, I thought to myself, okay, this is something I could help with, and that's really what the value in that was. Because I think you have a lot of people out there that, it's like it reminds me of the old thing, ask and you shall receive. And I think a lot of people are waiting to be asked, almost like, they don't want to impose. And I know when you guys asked for the sun tracking, that's where, like, for me, it activated me, because I thought, okay, well, here's something I might be able to help this crack group of people over here, settle this once and for all. It's like, it's something that one could do to help. And that, I mean, I've seen it even, you guys did it again a couple times. Every time you do it, a new wave of interesting people, comes into the mix, because they didn't know they could participate even half the time. I didn't.
Yeah, I mean that's
I had
the
no
biggest
idea.
thing I've taken from Flat Earth, if I'm honest, is internally my own participation. It's like, well, there's things that I can go out and look at and check for myself and observe for myself. And prior to now, it's the appeal to authority. And not most people, you kind of fall back on that. Well, there's an answer for that. Let's look it up and just trust what we look up. Now, it's not to say that I've stopped looking stuff up, obviously, but you're just a bit more sceptical and you're more inclined to go and check things out for yourself, do your own bit of research. And the sun tracking was exactly that. It's one where I couldn't do that on my own. And there's just no way. I can't be in more than one place at once. Whereas as a community, we could. We very much could, and we did.
Dude, that was historic, bro. Literally, to me, those things, those events, all of this is historic, in the sense that, like you said, think about it. First time in history, if you will, that, like, we've got access to this technology, and we're using it to track the sun. That is, to me, that's science. It's like everyone all over the world coming together, or, it's like, using devices we never had access to before, using resources in the, by the people that are out there. These aren't scientists, let's say, like, and that maybe was part of the issue, is that I think almost, if we really spent time, if we were going to, or if you were going to do another sun tracking, is really spend the time on how to be so super scientific. And I know Karen B made a great video, teaching people how to use all the instruments and stuff like that, which is, I think, it's just great, man. Everyone's learning. I mean, just to even learn about the fact that you can measure the angle of a shadow off of a stick, and then calculate the, you know, the altitude of it by, a certain location. All of these different things, are things really where, it's only until you've mastered, and I don't know if you can fully master heliocentrism. Like you said, it's like you go in and you look at all the answers and you go find it, and then, they're kind of guideposts, because you can't confirm anything or test it. You can't verify the makeup of the sun, but we can look into spectroscopy and not discredit it. You know what I mean? We can know their information and then expound on it.
I don't know.
So that's
Don't know
why,
if I
yeah.
agree with you, and I hate to be disagreeable, because it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we can turn around and point at the people using the objects in the sky for heliocentric proof, and then say that's nonsense, we don't know what they are, but then take the sun, track its position, and say, well, that means that what's down on the ground here on Earth is as such with a map, because of the position of the sun, I think that's completely fallacious until we know what it is. So for me, as I said earlier, my purpose wasn't that. My purpose was to debunk that. So if you're to take the assumption that the sun is a physical object, which the heliocentric model does, then you can start measuring it based on that assumption and prove where it's incorrect. And having it visible from various locations on Earth that weren't conducive with a spherical model was my purpose in doing that, to debunk the heliocentric model, to say if the sun is a physical object 93 million miles away, then here you can't have it seen from these 2 points. That's not physically possible if it's a physical object. But then you have to transpose that it's a physical object that's, let's just pick an arbitrary figure, 3,000 miles up, and say that physical object 3,000 miles up is casting its I don't think you can do that. I honestly don't. And that's why in the aftermath, after doing it and then proving it again, so we had 4 times where the sun was visible from spots on the spherical model that it shouldn't have been. 2 on the first, 2 on the second, sun tracking. So sun tracking 1 and then sun tracking 2. There was 2 different times on both. So 4 times. For me, that's enough to prove it to me that the heliocentric model did not work. But there we go. That's one of those. I can finally keep my mouth buttoned. We've been joined by Grim V. How you doing, Grim? Please do not swear.
Hey, cool.
What up, Grim?
How you doing, man? Long time. Well, I saw you the other day. Hey.
Yeah, man. What's up, brother?
Used to be able to say long time no see, but I mean, you know,
Man.
not anymore, right?
This shit.
I like what you're saying there, Nathan. About the the sun and being a physical object and whatnot. When you're talking about them being able to see the sun from further than 180 degrees, basically, right, on the sphere.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's an easy explanation. It's not so easy if you didn't think about it first, but it's easy once you think about it, because the atmosphere itself actually diffracts the light from the position where it is. So it's like a pencil in water. It's not really where you're seeing it. And that's exactly what it is with the sun on the horizon, as the light from the sun passes through the atmosphere especially because it's at that line where the atmosphere is the thickest from the observer's eye. It's going to actually have the medium differentiate to bend the light in a way where you're going to see that effect. You're going to see light. The sun's going to look like it's on the horizon, even though it's well below the horizon already by a couple of degrees. So I think maybe if you apply that knowledge to what you're thinking there, it might help with the understanding that the model's not broken. It's just being looked at incorrectly. It's a little misleading.
Sure. I'd love somebody to illustrate that. Every time I say that to somebody, though, they go, give me the exact time markers where it happened. Tell me exactly what countries they're in. I'm like,
right, exactly. No, I
okay.
agree. I'm granting you that it happens. Like I'm not even going to say that it doesn't happen, because it's supposed to happen. And a lot of Globers, they don't even know how things are supposed to work anyway. So it'll be easy to like cross them up and break their ankles in a basketball move. You know what I mean? When it comes to that, because most people just don't know that, Globers or flat, thinkers.
I mean, I did know that, and it's one where at the time it was just demonstrated to me holding a physical globe, and we had at the time when it was live, there was people saying, "Well, you're using the wrong globe," and it's like, okay, well, you show me which globe it works on then. So that still stands to this day. It's probably 12 months ago, maybe even longer, maybe even 18 months ago, the first one, and to this day I just say the same thing. I'm not going to spoon feed you all the timestamps, and they're like, well, there's hours of video. You're like, yeah, how many months do you think it took me to put it together so that I had 2 non-stop 24-hour feeds of the sun? That weren't easy. You want me to now go dissecting it up and feed you the time markers? It's like, no, I did it for my satisfaction and for the satisfaction of everyone watching. If you want to debunk it, go ahead, knock yourself out.
You can't do what you did there, because it doesn't really show anything. You know what I mean? I mean, it shows an idea of what you want, but it doesn't show it to the level of anybody being able to scientifically prove it or disprove it. So it doesn't, it's just expressing our conveyance of an idea. At least that's my opinion.
Well, that's absolutely incorrect. There was no express of any.
Well, my opinion can be incorrect.
Hold on. I'm going to get this out, and then I'm going to shut up, because I just want to get this out, Grim, and then I'll shut up. Right. So there was no conjecture or opinion. We demonstrated it live with people with cameras in real time, showing it on a live feed, and then somebody held up a globe and said, "Here are the sun location trackers in their positions. Here's where the heliocentric model shows the sun to be. It doesn't work. Now, to this day, nobody's come along and said, right, here's the
Except for me,
four
right?
chunks of video and said, right, here's chunk number 1. Actually, it would be curving. Nobody's done that. Nobody. They've just said, oh, well, I think it's just a conjecture and given an explanation. Well, show me. You know, I've done it live. It took a huge amount of effort.
I can show you with a glass of water and a pencil.
Wow, that's nothing like debunking a 24-hour sun tracking experiment that physically demonstrates the sun being in 2 locations that it shouldn't be. That's just putting a pencil in a water. I can do that in 5 seconds. It took 2 months to arrange the sun tracking experiment. 2 months.
I know.
So when people say, oh, it's a day's worth of video. Oh, I can't possibly go through a day's worth of video. 2 months it took to organise it. I don't care. Go and knock yourself out if you want to debunk it.
No, I grant you that. It's a lot of work. I appreciate you trying too. You know, it's not... I'm not here to bash, dude. I promise. That's not me.
No, I don't think you are. I didn't think you were.
I get the reputation for that, but that's only because I bash back. You've not bashed me. I'm not going to start bashing you, dude. Don't worry about it.
Hey, Nathan, what was the location with Robin Poe? There was some really odd location where she was somewhere and the sun was like. Do you remember that? Or
yeah, that was. It was about. Oh God, about 3 hours into the very first tracking, I think. The very first one, if you know what I mean, because they were split into 4 shows. The Hangouts only ran for, 8 hours maximum or 6 hours maximum, I forget. But yeah, the very first one, I think about 3 hours in, I don't know if it was Robin Poe that was actually the person making the observation, I can't remember, but she was certainly the one demonstrating it by holding the globe. So that's,
right.
It's an easy bit to find, because you literally, if you scrubbed through it, you'd find Robin holding a globe going, as it jerked its way through. So that would be one of the 4 that would be relatively easy to find.
Yeah, I remember.
So basically, actually, Nathan, so basically what I'm saying is you're right. What you're seeing is not a physical object at that time. It's a reflection of the sun. So everything you're saying, like this is like what you might not have gathered or taken away from what I was saying. You're saying that it might not be a physical object that you're looking at, and I'm saying you're right. At that time, it isn't. Even though the sun itself is a physical object, the reflection of the sun is what you're seeing. It's really a refraction. It's the bending of the light of the sun.
Yeah,
I
understand.
So it's not in the same position, right, that it should be, but it's only off by a couple of degrees. So I didn't see the results of your tests, but I mean, if it's a few degrees off, anywhere from 1 to 5 degrees off, then it might still be in the parameters it should be.
Maybe.
And that's demonstratable too, with glass balls and all kinds of different ways to try and demonstrate it, I suppose. But I mean, I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people, go out, watch it, debunk it, watch the ads.
Yeah. But it's my game. My goal wouldn't be to debunk somebody's video, really, but it would just be to show the actual representations of the physics in their proper standings. Sure, but there's
the bit that I'm saying. I get what you're saying, and I'm not going to disagree with it at all. What you're saying is the physical object that is the sun, which I'll come to in a minute, has dipped below the curvature of the Earth, and the layer of atmosphere is refracting that up to create what looks like the sun in your literally being able to see the sun, but it isn't.
Right.
It's a reflection. Exactly. I understood that now. I understood it when I did the sun tracking. I get it. But what I'm saying isn't that, yes, that particular moment you're seeing a false sun, and I get that in the heliocentric model. I'm saying the sun may not be a physical object. You and I have no way of knowing it. In that model, you're right. The representation of the sun in that moment is a false depiction in the heliocentric model, and therefore is not a physical object. So I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying it might not be a physical object at all. I just don't know.
I know what you're saying too, but I'm saying to at least find some common ground that at that point in time we're actually both saying the same thing. Like, yes. I found a common ground in our shit. I was trying to be, fun.
Yeah, we understand each other. Anyway, I'm going to duck out now because we've definitely got at least got Issa to debate with you, and I've already interjected too much. So to keep
I
neutral,
don't even know if we're gonna end up debating anymore. You mean
I know. I
kinda,
wanted to joke about that. Fucking The Principal. Is that movie from 1984? Dude, you killed me the other day.
right? The actual movie.
yeah,
Oh, it's so fucking awesome.
that was a
Yeah.
good movie.
I was crying laughing. You mean like?
That was Jim Belushi and the baseball bat, right?
I probably.
Yeah,
I forget.
he was,
Yo, that's. Did you ever watch that movie 1984 about like the high school kids that like go ganged up and shit? It's called 1984 or something. And it's like what's it called?
maybe I can't remember.
Oh, it's fucking all. It's like it's all scary as hell. Damn, I wish I could remember it. I can't think of the name. Forgive me. But shit. Damn, man, I'm staying in a hotel. I can't even smoke bud inside. Man, cool. I just wanted to stop in even and say what's up, man. I wanted to
Me
talk
too.
about
I
Carly.
figured.
Did you
I
watch
figured
the
there was that one
conference?
point that I could try to bring up that I might be able to work out some problem. I just really wish we would stop fighting about if it's flat or if it's round. I mean, not because we had more momentum going against all the more important things that are detrimental to our existence right now, like more immediate you know what I mean?
I think what we need to do is define our camp, and our camp essentially is alternative cosmology. It's like we all have these interesting concepts. We can't necessarily verify or any of this stuff, but the point is that we're proponents of the conversation, and in that we're united because we
Yeah, I like
recognize that we have.
truthers. It's truth seekers, truthers, without the extra cliche. If you can see through the garbagey end of it, and it's still truthers. You don't need to separate, because it's for the truth. We don't,
Right.
if the facts, we don't adhere to one side or the other. We bring in the facts and then make up the decisions from that and keep open minds to things. So that's what I'm trying to say. And we end up with these, and it's really strange because when you know something, like on a level where you actually do know it, you've worked it out, you can see it how it works, and that the other person does not see how it works because it's obviously very broken and it is fairly complex, and the other person can't see that complexity because you can tell by the way they talk to you, by the
Right.
issues bring up, the topics, the misunderstandings that they clearly have, and then they say, you're the idiot. It makes you want to slap them down, right? But and you try to be compassionate.
I've said it before. It's like, look, it's like even just that idea that it's like, okay, look, heliocentrism is a hell of a model, and it's like if you're going to enter this discussion, you should be savvy. Standard academic model is so that in order to question it, you're actually on solid ground. That's something I've fought for. I fought for that. I think this whole time, even as some element of like, okay, we got it. You have to be able to give a little, and that goes for both sides. It's like the idea that like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's like there are points of agreement that like, when we look into heliocentrism, if you don't know heliocentrism well enough, aren't necessarily qualified to question it intellectually yet, because at least then, if you understand the heliocentric model and then question it, and I think that's actually I think the biggest hurdle.
You're right. Questioning it, you can question it, but you can't deny it. That's what you mean,
right? Yes, bro. Like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm not trying to say it's like if you don't know, let's say, like you and I go in talking about the equatorial bulge and being able to see the sun for, being able to see,
past 180 degrees and all that.
Yeah. All this, like, kind of like if you can't understand some of those pointier, those are real conversations. And that's where, but if someone's just going to throw out what somebody else believes.
Water don't bend. Over and over again.
And that's the thing. It's
or
like,
this
okay,
is what
yeah,
the stars really look like.
And then the problem with
they
that
make
is that
flat Earth
you
look
guys,
dumb when they do that, because that's not what the stars look
hold
like.
on, no. A lot of people are not familiar with, let's say, the concept of water tension. Okay, so like there's water tension on the top of a cup, where a lot of people point to that as some something that, you know, shows curvature to water.
Or the meniscus effect.
Right, you know what I mean? And like, you know, and so people bring all
Meniscus.
kinds of interesting stuff
Am I
into
saying
the
the right
equation.
word?
And these are things where, you know, as a quote unquote scientist or something, you'd have to be able to, you have to respect that. And like, you know, and then you can question it. It's like, you know, it's like almost like jazz music. A lot of jazz musicians are classically trained, go and then they decide to play off time or off
Oh,
beat
in the
or
middle
in
beats.
some,
In the middle beats.
yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's like, but it's not something where you just like I remember I used to love John Coltrane. He said about he was like, fuck Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg said, oh, all you gotta do is pick up a fucking instrument and blow your soul into it. And he's like, dude, fuck you. I fucking work hours on this every day, 8 hours a day. I don't eat some days to fucking play this instrument. Like, and you're gonna tell me like just anyone
All
can
you
go.
gotta do.
All you got to do is pick up a horn and blow your soul into it. It's like, just what the fuck are you talking about? You know, so I mean, I have a high regard for it. That's why I mean, I've always entertained these conversations with the ball, like quote unquote ballers or whatever the fuck, because or even LSC and concave, because it's like,
I'm not a baller, dude. I'm a truther. That's a whole
hey
different
man,
thing.
no, well, I say quote unquote, but I mean like, you know, in the ranks of the way that people tend to look at this conversation, like it's like
No,
you
no.
have to.
I'm classified as a baller in anyone else's eyes because if
What
I'm arguing for the sphere.
a lot of people don't understand too, you come with your own alternative cosmology.
Oh
And that's
yeah,
the
I
thing
don't
that like
settle on that
right.
relativity, gravitationally based theory stuff either. Like
Right.
I
That's
have a
why it's a
different.
pleasure to hear you go after somebody like Brenda from time to time. You know what I mean? Or go after someone who just does accept, because you're speaking for all of us
I know.
that do question, you know, and yeah, you know that. And it's like, that's where, Grim, you're a fucking ally to any truther.
That's right.
That from the
Thank you. I
gate.
appreciate hearing that
Yeah,
finally out
brother. I know
loud. You
that,
know, I
dude.
don't get that as much as I should probably
Right. Well,
out here.
you're cantankerous as fuck, and I happen to love it. I happen to not like you bringing up the principle the other day. That's fucking and these are the things where if I hadn't known about the principle and I'm sitting there arguing with you and you're like, no, it's from
You might not
1984.
understand
It's like,
all the pieces I come from.
right. It's like you're correct. You're not wrong, and that's the thing is that if I'm not willing to look into what you're even saying, then it makes me look like a fool. It makes anyone who would do that look like a fool.
But yeah, but I like how, you know, it takes a certain level of intelligence to even recognize that aspect of themselves anyway.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
well,
that's why
that's
if
what
you
this.
weren't doing that, or if I wasn't to do that, I would consider myself being 40 grit, or
Yeah,
anyone else who's doing it 40 grit, sandpaper, like the really rough stuff that can't see
yeah,
the finer sandpapers even exist. So they go on through life thinking they're the smoothest shit, right?
yeah.
You know,
That's a good one.
nobody wants them to get too close anymore after that because they're
I agree, brother. It's
scratch
like,
with
and
their.
that's the thing is, yeah, no, too many people. I mean, I don't know. I think that's what I've always thought. Like Timmy has said, put it well, even like it's like the idea that this information benefits a lot of people, and then it can harm other people. And like, and I don't want to say that that's necessarily the case, but in a certain sense, like if you're not going to get the nuance of that joke about the principal amidst this high level intellectual conversation, and see, it's like, this is like people have said, even comedy is a form of intelligence, a sense of humor. And
Timing,
this
the
all
timing, yeah.
right. And it has to be all complete. Like we have to be complete. There is no excuses for our, and that's where, when it comes to the shape of the earth, it's like understanding heliocentrism and respecting it. And then that gives us, that's why I think, so many people are, cathexis is so endearing because he gives so much credence to the ball. But it's tough as a flat earther because you're like, wait a minute, what does he think? And then he's like, I don't know. And you're like, what the fuck? Because everyone's trying to be into flat earth. You can get talked out of it too. You can get talked out of being a truther if you can get talked into being a truther. You know what I mean? So like it's in you or it's not. And I don't know, there's no
That's why. That's why I try to ask people not to take a stance like I'm this or I'm that, like polarization, the one way or the other.
right, but there
You know,
comes
look at that
but it's
broken
weird
ass
though.
PC. It never works as a directional
It's
device.
yeah, don't use that. But yeah, this is what you're
Grim,
saying too.
can you not throw the devil sign up, please?
No.
I was gonna say, shoot, I'm all sleepy again. I was gonna say something. Damn it, forgive me.
Horny
Nice,
devil.
grim over there.
Woo, woo. I don't know.
It's like reminds me of like snake bites. Remember snake bites? You put your thumb under your index finger, like it's like a yeah, and then you can pinch somebody with
No, no, yeah, no.
the thumb and the lower
That's
knuckle.
funny.
It's a snake
Let
bite.
me try that. Ow. Oh, yeah, that works.
Yeah. Oh man, shit! I was gonna say something too.
Oh,
Forget.
about integrity in the
Yeah,
honest.
well, what is it? Just this. I guess I could continue. It's like just this notion of us having a high regard for the heliocentric system, but then also recognizing that people get talked into that way, and like let's say they don't learn about electromagnetism or something to that effect, and then there's this idea that where you could just get talked into something, and that idea like you don't want to go from. This is why I've always
Well, those aren't the
respected
kind of
science.
people. That's the average. Those aren't the kind of people. You know, that's that's not the kind of people I am. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh no yeah, oh no, I'm
no,
not
that's what I'm
you're
saying. Like, and I understand exactly where you're coming from because that is a problematic area in people with their appeal to authorities, because if they think that somehow, if they just start to feel or get the impression that you're an authority on this subject over them, and they trust you, they'll believe something that you say. They'll believe something that you say without researching it. And like I tell people, like I won't even respect that. If I tell you something and it sounds crazy and you just fucking agree with me, I'm either gonna think you're full of shit or you're gullible.
or
You need
yeah,
to actually, you need
or
to
you're being
investigate
nice.
it, because I would have investigated it. I respect it more, and then it's more solidified. I know that you really do I can trust you better. That you've looked
Right.
into it and that you're the kind of person who's not going to just be a blind follower. See, and
Yep.
that's what people don't understand about, where I'm coming from. They think I'm doing the opposite. If you ever listened, you've heard me. I'm like, look, here's the evidence. This is like the stuff I talk about: plasma cosmology, microbiology, vaccine issues, mainly. I'm like, look, this is public record. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't all the stuff that people freak out over. This is just like, you let this slip through the cracks because the media didn't pick it up. I didn't let it slip through the cracks. Here it is, and I show them, and they're like, la 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 la. It doesn't exist. You know,
Yep.
you're dumb.
Yep.
Blah, blah.
It's also that's what I've also gotten into the whole notion
That's why
that
we need to
it's like
stick together, no matter if it's flat or round, because we got these other issues that the shills get to jump in the middle of this fight, create more fight between us, and keep us all divided. We need to
well, dude,
fuck
you know what's
off the
crazy? Look
shills.
at it like
We
this.
need to fuck
There's
them off,
no
man,
even.
and fucking get back together, right? And do shows about the heavy hitting stuff we were doing. Go
Well, I
ahead.
find it odd
Sorry.
even too. It's
I
like
had to finish
like
my rant. It's like a dog
wow,
humping one
you're,
leg.
no, you're on point. It's like and that's the thing is that like we get so fractured that like because I mean we like let's say okay you have truthers and then you've got I mean there's like people groups of flat earthers that hate other groups of flat earthers. I mean, there's groups of like, I'd imagine there's vegans that hate each other. There's fucking, there's ketogenic people that hate each other. There's like, instead of actually uniting and seeing some common ground, we focus on the division. And that's why I've always said I'm not a collectivist. I'm all about the, rugged individualism as the only means to liberty. I mean, I'm not going to come out for FEMA camp or go to the next fucking flat Earth conference or just, or, to be around all the people. But at the same time, it's like, I understand, individuals are the ones that like really get to, and when we all raise each other up and become cognizant, like it's of my opinion, we're going to have it like, let's say like, if you will, like flat earth wise, it's like the economic platform for me is like, forgiveness. Like, what's terrifying to me is the idea, and I said this, it's the only thing that would ever make me publicly talk about going back to the ball, be that the idea that would crumble and everyone would die if we didn't have the space program, because of the way that it leans on because the way the economic system leans on it. Reason I think that, like, is that's what sometimes when I hear some of these like, baller cats that come out here, I almost feel that they're working for that idea that, look, if space is taken out of the equation, fall, like at least U.S. economy and shit. So I
Yeah.
wonder, sometimes, like, what is the
Well, I see it two ways, like you're saying there. I could see how that could be a part of something there and an idea of, how somebody's thinking. But I see it in another way too. That it's very possible that what the fuck is going on? That was weird, and just had some light problems there.
Yeah, it was weird our
It's
end. I saw your screen sort of flash, and then you lost sound. It was weird.
Yeah, crazy. Am I there? Okay, I'm there. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, it's possible that that's one of the facets, but again, it would be like not for the same reason though. It would be like a precipice in the middle where they meet at that facet. Basically, what I'm saying is that there could be definitely this new understanding about what's coming out in space and stuff, as far as what I'm talking about, the plasma cosmology and and that just might open up a whole new era way of travel, places to go.
Well, see, like, if that's the
It
case,
might be
that's what.
found out that most planets have atmospheres, right? I mean, it could simply be something like that, because I mean, we have a lot of the same electromagnetic forces. They're the same currents, some of even the same actual gases and whatnot. And it could be, for all we know, it could be easier to travel that way through electromagnetism than rocketry at all in the first place, right? So for all we know at this point, we know we can make Faraday cages, and we can, you know, keep electric charges off of insulated objects in hella high voltage ranges. And so maybe there's something to the space travel thing. I don't know. I mean, but it's not rocketry, you know. Otherwise, it
I
wouldn't
wonder.
be economically viable. It would have to be
It just
electromagnetism.
it just seems to me, for me, it's like,
Propulsion wise.
well, you also accept, see, you accept, like, some of the standard beliefs in, like, let's say, as in, like, that planets are terra firma, and like, that they have atmospheres, and for me, it's
Right.
like,
I've seen the dendritic ridges of their cavernous electrically discharged, scarring and stuff. Like I've seen the mountain ranges on these planets that we're talking about, you know,
well, it's
through
like, but those
their
things.
technology. But that all like does exist though, like this radio mapping and things like that. That's all a real science. I mean, that's not made up, because it's too many individual sources are able to verify this
Well,
thing.
see, I don't like, check this out. My boy, he's working with a guy
Otherwise, they
who's,
wouldn't be able to believe it anyway. It's just
well, like,
unbelievable. Right?
it's like this guy is, like, a friend of is working on, like, he does the software for satellites, and, like, but all he does is the software, and it's like, he's under the presupposition that these things are going up, and, like, and he's just ultimately, what he's doing really is just coding, and he can't verify it because he's invested in the code. He's insistent that these particular
Oh no,
things are
I
happening.
understand that psychology very well.
I'm sure you do. I
Yeah,
wonder. My thing is that, like, if space isn't what they tell us, and if we have never gone there, then it looks to me like what they've done. Like, for instance, they have this. There's an asteroid out there that they say is worth like 100,000 quadrillion dollars in nickel. And so, like, like, this idea to me is like, what they're going to do is they're going to get mining companies that are going to get contracts, that are going to be going, saying they're going up there to get this metal shit and all this other stuff. And this is the economic stuff, because everything's obligation. It's all
They
what
would have done
they
that to
say.
the moon already. It's closer.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They've already, well, maybe didn't they already do that with the moon landing? We don't know how far bad. My thing is
Again,
this
we're
is that,
assuming we're assuming. Here's the problem with the whole thing. We're assuming that there's anything on those places that isn't already here on Earth. That we do have plenty of whatever it is they think we don't have enough of. All that shortage and stuff is all in our heads because it's what they've fed us to believe. They've fed us the ideas over our whole lives and our fathers' lives and our grandfathers' lives that we're overpopulated, that we're undershorted, we don't have enough food, or we're not going to have enough oil. There's always a depletion here and an energy crisis there, and none of it's real. We have plenty of everything. There's more diamonds in the planet than you can shake a stick at. They want to tell you they're rare and make them cost a lot, but I mean, their biggest job is to keep the diamonds in their mines and to keep the mines hidden. That's See, every time I say something true or real hard, and right there, my fucking electricity flickers, man.
De Beers is coming after you, kid.
I'm telling you, I got my shotgun right here.
Right. Well, yeah, but that's the thing too. Is if let's say all this stuff that we're kind of referencing, what we have to understand is that this economic system that we live under is built on this
lies
myth, and yeah, and that's where and so as the truth is untold, or as the truth comes out, biggest thing that there's something I think looking into the future is a big issue is the idea that the economic collapse of people no longer having faith in these institutions. And I think that I wonder sometimes if let's say we look at it
well, that's why the elite already came out with their own opposition to themselves as controlled opposition to their currencies with these digital currencies.
I agree 100%. Dude, all these crypto people, they don't understand that they are still working off of the dollar. They have no
idea. Like saying, and they're like, look how much money I'm gonna make, look, and brag about, look, I made a bunch of money off of that shit. It's like, yeah, you're making money off of the future imprisonment of all mankind. You're encouraging the imprisonment of mankind and the lack of any more freedoms whatsoever.
Well, also because what they'll do is, I mean, I've talked about this money shit, I never shut up about it, but the idea that we don't even understand how the system is really operating its currency at the moment, and
right.
and that for us is we're operating on a bunch of presumptions. When we talk about supply and demand and Keynesian economics and fucking all the rest of it, it's like this. I mean, why hasn't the Fed raised the interest rate?
No. Yeah.
They don't give a shit. Thank God, too. Thank goodness they don't give a shit, because hyperinflation would crush everyone.
Another thing people need to realize: who has the biggest wallet, and can the biggest wallet manipulate the currency? That's what they need to think about, right? And then they look it up. Look, FBI has got the biggest Bitcoin wallet. So who's controlling?
No
shit. Who's controlling the currency now, Ventures?
Yeah. Well, that's what this is the thing too for people. I was looking yesterday,
Stuff.
This one guy at the convention, he asked the panel. He said, "So what are we going to do about the enemy?" He's not an FBI fucking whatever, right? So and Carly Sunshine, she was just like, "We're going to learn to teach our enemies about love and forgiveness and all this beautiful stuff." And I just thought to myself,
I love that.
Hey, and Sunshine, because it's my opinion that it's
I was thinking Carly Simon. Never mind.
Carly Sunshine.
It sounded like something Carly Simon would have said, actually.
Dude, she's Carly Sunshine is fucking awesome, man. And she handled that kind of a question. And to my point is that it's not look, if you are not a violent person and you don't have intentions to do these horrible things, I think, you're safe. It's the idea that what people want to do, or what these institutions will do, is lure these people into the idea of doing something violent. They want to lure you to do it so that all of a sudden now it becomes your idea. And now you're fucking now you're fucked. Because they're the ones who have the Bitcoin. They're the ones who sold you the thing in the first place, and you sent them the Bitcoin.
Right, exactly.
Thinking you're all anonymous on the dark web or some bullshit. It's crazy.
What do you think about that, Nathan? You Have you thought about the Bitcoin situation much?
Only from a only from a computing standpoint.
Exactly. Yeah. Where it makes like awesome sense and it's pretty freaking cool.
Well, no, just more the kind of equipment that would be required to do it. Looks like we've been joined by somebody who I can't quite make out his name from this distance. Hello, pleased to have you here.
Frank Black.
Hello?
What
Oh,
up, bro?
brilliant. Frank, good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear,
Yep.
Frank.
All right. Yeah, it's good to be here.
Nice, brother.
Yeah, is that Esau?
Yeah, what's up, brother?
What's going on?
Chilling.
Yeah, a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Just a couple of points I wanted to mention, like all this sovereign citizen stuff you talk about is like, I mean, it's sort of like we're so dependent on the government and it's not sustainable. Like this model that we're living under is only sustainable like to the people that are in control, like the government, but it's not really doing anything for us. So we need to study indigenous like tribes and cultures if you want to understand how to live under a model that's sustainable, that works for us.
Well, my
like
only thing is that
we,
you're up against the system that. Oh, go on, brother. Forgive me for interrupting.
all right, yeah, because like we look at indigenous tribes and like tribal people as primitive, but they're not, because like they can survive like in the wild. Like we can't do that. Like if you're left out in the wild, like you'd be dead in like 5 days. So there's something about that, there's certain qualities that we can learn from them that are going to help us, escape from the system that we're in. And like all these moves that we're making that are catering towards dependency on government, they're not really going to help, because they're just going to keep us stuck and we're not going to go anywhere. But yeah, go ahead.
Great point. Have you ever heard have you ever done any wilderness survival training?
No, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I recommend look up Tom Brown Jr. I used to study under him, and then his son Tom Brown Jr. the third. They both have schools in the U.S. and you can go learn primitive survival skills.
Yeah,
I recommend. Yeah, I agree with you, brother. The Apaches have a great saying. The farther a man's feet are from the earth, the closer he is to his own destruction. My issue,
that's
the
right.
issue,
Yeah.
I am very much, I'm quite familiar with survivalism, and but what I did notice is that for myself, I've said it before. It's like I went to the woods, and the woods told me to go back and figure out what the fuck's going on, because you can't stop the bulldozers. So there's no amount of magic circles, sweat lodges, or anything that's going to stop the bulldozers. So the only way to understand it is to understand the contracting, because it's really a sad case for the indigenous people. Is that a lot of the times what they did was they would say, hey, we can have this land, and they go, yeah, and they'd say, sign this piece of paper, and the natives would sign it as an X, and it was considered good to go, and it was a contract. So when they rolled in with the U.S. military, they said, what, you gave us the land, look at the contract your chief gave us. And so because we didn't understand contracting is the issue. I am 100% for wilderness survival and all that, but the idea is that we have to be complete. We have to be a synthesis of a contracting business side and an original man ability to live off of the earth. That's my culmination. Is what I seek to do, is to synthesize those two, because I see it as the only solution. And some people say it's too much to learn. Well, is it? Is it really? Is freedom too much responsibility? And this is where, like the sovereign citizen, even just a case in point in detail, is sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, because sovereign means authority, citizen means subject. There's no way anyone could be a sovereign citizen, and it's, in my opinion, no man could be sovereign under God. And I think that's an ancient tradition. That's what I get that from the Apaches. You know what I mean? But yeah, I agree with you, man.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, brother. I would recommend anyone to go read a book. It's called The Tracker from Tom Brown Jr. He's actually from he was down by a place by me in New Jersey. So a lot of friends I know actually grew up hunting with him, and he used to teach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up for sure.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
the
yeah. The tracker. Okay.
Yeah, man. And then
Yeah. Something else I wanted to go
on.
ahead.
No, go on.
Yeah, this is kind of going off topic a little bit, but something
Yeah,
else I
I'll be right
wanted to
back.
touch on.
But I'll be back in a sec.
Cool.
Yeah, something else I wanted to touch on was like the North Pole. We don't really focus on that much, and there's so much going on there that we need to talk about as flat earthers. Like, have you heard of Mount Meru?
Of course, that's why I
And
say Mount Meru Christmas, bro.
exactly. And like
Yeah.
that area isn't guarded by, you know, government or military or anything like that. It's guarded by something else. Like, you can't access that unless I can't remember what it was, but
The
like
dew
there's
line.
certain
The dew line.
the dew line. Is that what
Yeah,
it
it
is?
used to be called the dew line, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so a lot of focus is put on like the ice ring and like the outer continents and all of that, but we really need to focus on the North Pole. And I just find it weird that like a lot of flat earthers are kind of like not really talking about that. It's more about the South Pole and like the military that's up there preventing us from like seeing what's going on. But that's not even like what we should be focused on, because the North Pole is where, you know, everything is at, apparently.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually it's fascinating too. I think it was just ODD had recently done a video with the idea of the North Pole symbology in movies, and I highly recommend it. I mean, it's just, you know, he's awesome with his videos, and he goes into how the, you know, in the movies they talk about that, but also these ideas of going to the North Pole, going to the South Pole, all of these things. Without this notion of understanding contracting, the thing that gets me is that it's that, okay, like let's say you go and you break past the Antarctic Treaty and you go find a village of people living out on one of those islands past the fucking ice ring. You know, the thing is, well,
The
do you
village
know how to
people.
like, dip? Like, are you going to create a problem for the rest of the world because you don't know how to contract? Are you gonna, you know what I mean? Because are you violating maybe some treaty agreement that there is with the people beyond the ice wall? We don't know.
What do you
So
mean
my
by
thing,
contract? Could
no,
you
let's say, you know,
elaborate on that?
like let's say for instance, like there's, let's just take for instance, right? If there were people beyond the ice wall, let's say our government was in contact with them, right? And we have an agreement that we're never going to go in their turf, and that if we ever do go to their turf, then they can raid our turf. And so if one of our, like, you know, let's say Math Powerland breaks through with a fucking, you know, with a painting, you know, and goes and meets these people, well, all of a sudden he's violated some contract that now institutes some other contract where they get to come in and annihilate us with superior technology. I don't know. My point is that when we talk about all this idea of
I
going
thought
to
you were
the,
going to say, Frank, what do you mean beyond the ice wall?
yeah, well, and that's it too. There's all the, and I'm sure you're familiar with all the maps and stuff out there. But I think also the North Pole is much the same way. It's like, but with the whole, you know, that saying, wherever you
Jon
go,
Snow.
there you are. You know,
No
like, you know,
matter
wherever
where
you
you
go.
go, there you are. Mad
Yeah, I
Max.
mean, like, you know, that idea of like, you know, like I think of it like right here in my hotel room. You know, I am at the top of Mount Meru. That's what I think. I live my life like I'm on the top of that motherfucking mountain. I don't. I'm always on,
Okay.
because it's within myself, and this is what I think the secrets of the ancients was. And that's where you're right in that Aboriginal. You know, or I don't like the term Aboriginal because it's ab negates original. But like the original people, you know, they had a
Yeah.
spiritual foundation that understood that they were the pinnacle. You are it, man. Like, you know, you are the, you stand erect on the face of the creation, man. Like, you know, that's how I live my life and how I look at this. And the more I
Right.
understood it, like, and then like I've said before, I'm so happy that law was my first subject because, well, nature first, really, and survival, really, but the, like the idea of understanding law and how it's built to make the individual the supreme community. And we're taught that we're not. I've said it before that they make us think that we're insignificant on a spinning ball, when in reality, maybe the sun, the moon, and the stars go around you. You're it, man. You're Mount Meru. It's not in the South Pole. It's not in the North Pole. It's wherever you are. But
I have to disagree with you on that. I think that, and the North Pole is an actual place, but I get where you're going with that. Like the as above, so below. Like the universe is kind of like a projection of what we are on the inside.
The man, yeah, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but I agree with being something that's inside of us. Well, it probably is, but I think that there actually is a place you can go to, and there's a place that
isn't that to me it seems fairy tale-esque. Do you know what I mean, brother? Like,
it really
and
is.
that's the dilemma that I have, is the idea that it's like, wait a minute, even still, look at, not that it's I mean, I know we've maybe been sold the idea that there's no way to get there and that it's harsh and brutal and all the rest of it. And then you've got stories like, the Jans, the sailor, one guy, but we don't know how verified those stories are. And, and I think
right.
I think really it's like, I learned a long time
Admiral Byrd's been there too.
Right. And he got, but the idea is like, and then who does he work for? You know what I mean? Like, what do we know? We're
Right.
gonna get truth out of that.
He's a Mason too.
Also too, like, think about it like this. It's of my opinion, their goal is to keep you seeking outside of yourself. If you think it's a physical place, then they're going to sell you the skis you need to get there, the snowmobile you got to use, the car, they're going to sell all that to you. And they'll be like, yeah, good luck. Go get it. And then you're going to get stopped and turned around and the rest of it too. And they're like, oh, well, you bought it as is, and then like, it's like you can't win, because really, I think the whole thing and the secret of all of the teachings of the ancients is that, like, I saw De La Ohio put up, the kingdom is within you, and this is I mean, I even think of it like this, like, what if we could pay all of our bills by using a signature and understanding how to draft a simple contract pursuant to UCC 3603? Like, that's where I'm at, is like this idea that we may be able to solve everything that we could ever solve without actually having to go physically anywhere. And that's like, I think, the biggest revolution. But hey, I am all for, like I've said before, if someone's going to put together, like I've seen Matt Powerland say, we're going to go to the Arctic. What I haven't seen him say is, hey, all of my listeners, go take a community college class on sailing.
Yeah.
That's what I haven't seen. And I haven't, like, it's like, it's like, like for instance, like survivalism. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah, go to these schools. They'll teach you how to live in the woods like an ancient Apache scout, straight up. And they will teach you.
I agree. A lot of what he talks about is really overly ambitious. So is IPS, like trips to the South Pole and GoFundMe's and all that stuff. They're not really going into detail as to how that's going to work. And
right.
you did mention one thing about like there's so much we need to learn like about ourselves, and we don't really need to study the outside physicality. We can learn everything we need from within. And I agree with that, because like there's so much of our mind that we're not using just because we're being poisoned. Like our mind's been poisoned from birth with like everything that we're exposed to, so we don't get to develop that ability to travel within. But like people that do, it's like DMT and psilocybin and all that, do experience what you're talking about, and get to see like Akashic records and like all the knowledge that's within us. But I also think there is stuff that's on the outside that we need to study in nature as well.
Oh, I agree. I tell you, here's the thing, is that, like I said, I am all for a fucking Arctic expedition. But the point is, I'm not going to go with somebody who isn't actively telling everyone to go take sailing courses, navigation classes. Do you know how to use a sextant? If you don't understand those things, then shut the fuck up.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you don't know how to use it, if you don't know how to
Issa,
use
sorry
the
to
sensor,
interrupt. Just for 1 second. I'm just going to do a couple of plugs and links
go on,
and
bro.
stuff. Now that we've got another guest, you'll see why. So, if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live show. And if you'd like to join the live show, you can click on the info box in the description below this video. There are only 2 rules, and until now I've kept my mouth shut because Issa and Grimvy are very well acquainted, so there's no point in me interjecting. They are not becoming agitated. But now that we've got a slightly more contentious subject, which has not been discussed between the guests before, and we're on to Antarctic ice rings and IPS and GoFundMes, please do not swear. So that's rule number 1, please do not swear. If you are swearing, I will ask you politely to stop, and then if you continue, I will eject you. So that brings me on to rule 2. If you are ejected, you will be warmly welcomed back on the next show. So just to round out this link, if you are new to the channel, be sure to click on the subscribe button and the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And if you'd like to join the show live, click on the link in the info box to express your views on the shape of the Earth. I'll transition.
I feel like I'm on a plane.
Thanks. Sorry to interrupt. Please do not swear, Issa.
Oh, yeah, forgive me too. I'm worse. I'm even worse than curved water. Yeah, but I think like the Arctic and stuff like that. Like, look, if we aren't, it's like it seems that there is a play to make naive people think that just by saying we're going to the Arctic, we're gonna fucking get to the Arctic, and that to me thinks that if if that's the case, you know what I mean, then I know where I stand. I'm not trying, like I've said before, it's almost like this. It's like, look, even I was at FEMA camp, I was like telling people, like, look, I don't need any more friends. I'm cool. I'm fucking all right, man. I'm here to talk about this shit that I think that, with the law stuff, people need to, pardon my language, people understanding that element of it and understanding how that it brought me into the flat earth thing. Because, and then unfortunately, when I got here, I saw that the biggest thing we need to develop, even as flat earthers, skills. Because look at everybody and all their division and everything like that. How, like I've said, where's your Kundalini spirit, bro? Where's your Kundalini fucking, pardon me, awakened third eye, pineal flat earth gland? Where is that? And that's what needs to be developed. Otherwise, when you get to the Arctic, it's like, who's to say the people there are going to be like, oh, God, get them. Makes us think we're going to be welcome.
Right. So let me ask you something, though.
What's that?
Let me ask you something. Do you agree with the fact that the outside world largely influences us, like who we are as people?
The outside world in what sense?
Environment.
Like the outside world, like what we know about the world that we live in, like what we're taught, our kids, and all that stuff. That has a large impact on. Right. Okay. So.
Oh, it's well documented that cosmology has a profound effect on philosophy.
Exactly. So flat Earth is an awakening because it's us knowing what the outside world really is, because like we've been lied to for such a long time, and that obviously has had an effect on our psyche and who we think we are, and how we act. And now that we're learning what the truth really is, however, it is, it's not 100%. Like we don't know what the model is, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is that, we've been lied to, and we're beginning to see that. And that's the outside world having an effect on us. So.
Oh, I've said it even like this. It's like, we at the first, I love this line, and I say it with law or even science. It's like and this is what I think is so important about why this conversation needs to be constantly happening, is the idea that forgive me, I'm like trying to space them out, but the idea that we have this inherent ability to understand outside of us as well as inside of us. And forgive me, I'm zoning out on what I wanted to say right now. Our philosophy and everything. Oh yeah, at the first sip of natural sciences, it'll lead one to be an atheist. At the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you. So it's like in what I look at, like I've been noticing this we do not consent crap. And we do not consent is an adolescent childish response to a very grown up problem. See, there we go. I like the grim over there. Like so with that said, it's like what I don't want to see is like I don't want to see like let's say some new flat earther is gonna run around like tearing a new one into every heliocentric person they meet without actually understanding heliocentrism. It's like this rage that is it's impotent. It's an impotent rage. And that impotency is what has got us even further and further down the line. And I don't have time for it personally. If people are going to go, it's like suicide by cop. Cool. You're going to not consent. Well, do you know the maxim in law that says he who does deny admits?
Doesn't want you. I'm just kidding.
It should be man with shit, man. Or pardon me. We're, I want everyone to be effective in this. I think
sometimes
for far too long.
When you don't have the right vote, though, you don't want to consent because sometimes there's just not a candidate there.
Well, here's the thing, right? Hold on, let me give you a good example. Right.
And you don't want to vote for.
Check this out. Lewis Hackett called me up one night, and he goes like this: "Show me your face. Show me your face. Show me your." And I go like this: "I'd love to." For $10,000. You could send it to my PayPal. You could send it to my whatever. When I get the funds, I'll show you my face. I'd love to. Where's my money? And this is like, I'm not being argumentative. I'm continuing the negotiations. I'm not saying, no, I'm not going to show you my face. I'm just saying, hey, sure, I'd love to. Agree with my adversary quickly. So, yeah, I'd love to for 10 grand. Put it in my bank account, and then I'll I'll show you my face. And this is the way that it's not that I consent to just bowing down and giving him everything he wants. I'm just saying, sure, give me $10,000, the keys to your car, and let me get a night with your girlfriend, and we'll call it even. I'll show you my face when I'm done with it all. But the point is that, like, it's not that I'm consenting. It's just how I'm not consenting. Okay, but that's the example. So it's not that I understand the philosophy of we do not consent. I get it. It's just childish. It's like,
well, it's only childish if
if
you believe one of the candidates actually has your interest in mind, because in reality, it demands a revote. If everybody did it, it would be a vote. My vote is not to vote for any of those guys. It is a statement by default. It is a statement.
Well, no, but that's to say vote. How about this?
It's being misunderstood. No, it's being misunderstood, overlooked superficially. It's being overlooked superficially because if
look
I
like this, hold on. Let's take it to another subject. Hold on.
Let me finish, Issa,
when it comes to voting.
But hold on,
Grim, check it out, Grim.
You say you understand it.
Grim, watch like this though. What company have you ever? Hold on, 1 second. What company have you ever worked for that you got to vote?
Right, while you two are constantly interrupting each other, I'm going to interrupt both of you and say we've been joined by Funtz Clark. Very pleased to have you here, Funtz Clark. Hopefully you will do a bit better and allow a gap.
Hold on 1 sec though. Yeah, shout out to Peanuts. What do you call? Hold on 1 second.
I have to pay taxes, but there's not guaranteed a job for me. So it's really not the way you're saying it is.
Well,
I'm not employed by the U.S.
Grim, you're opening up a whole other can of worms in the sense of like,
I'm not employed. I'm a servitude to it. It's different. They don't guarantee you a job. They just guarantee they take your taxes. It's different. To me,
that's not what I'm about. Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Morality-wise, I don't care legalities.
Right, but hold on, Grim. What if you could have a credit card company and discharge it, and everything was cool between you and the SEC because you and the contractor at the bank understood?
I'm stealing from the other people, though.
That's not. Well, that's to say that. That's to say you understand.
Me, the winner, I need to make
500,000
losers.
Let me make a quick point.
I don't think that's a great system.
Is the idea that look, when it comes to voting, you brought up voting, which shows like whatever. It's like look like this. What company have you ever worked for that you got to?
But I brought up the contention.
Hold on 1 sec, bro. Let me finish the one thing. And I know you know it. I just want to do it for the crowd. Is like the idea that what company have you ever worked for that allowed you to vote for who the president of the company is? None. And the point is that all U.S. citizens are considered employees of the United States. What makes us think our vote is going to count in that capacity?
Yeah, but see, if you don't have a choice and you're born into it, and your birth certificate is your proof of employment, then you don't actually have a choice. You're not really employed.
No,
You're a
hold on now.
you're a
Who said your
servant.
Who said your birth certificate is the sign of employment? It's the sign of your
Well, I'm saying
creditorship
it
over
is.
the. Well, right, but that's to say it's not the sign of you being a creditor in the system.
I know the way the Constitution is written is your sign of employment, Article 6, Section 1, when all monies borrowed and debts owed at the Confederation are held by the over to the Constitution. They're liable for on the Constitution. So it's like you thought that the Confederation squashed the debts when they squashed the Confederation, but they held the debts over and all monies borrowed by Congress and everything to the same banks. So every time they borrow that money, it's the same debt, and it goes over to the crown because they opened the first bank of the United States with 25,000 shares, and 18,000 of those shares were already held by those in England, foreigners.
Oh yeah, I talk at length about that on my show.
Yeah, you
with
do.
the idea that the U.S. never won the Revolutionary War,
Yeah,
and a whole bunch of the rest of it. And that's where I think like we've lost. Like I've said before, is that how can we effectively shape history if we don't understand the real true history of things? And if you're going to go on a boat trip and you're 1 degree off in a very long journey, by the time you get where you think you thought you were going to be, you're going to be so far away from it. And that's
bye.
where we have to.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't get anywhere if you don't understand these elements of history. But Peanuts, what's up, brother?
Mic check.
Yeah, you there, brother? How you
Yeah,
doing?
good to have you
Hey,
here. I've been
I'm
saying your
doing
name wrong
fine.
forever.
Just listening to
Peanuts. Sorry.
Nice.
just kind of like y'all were talking, and I think kind of like you always say, we always gripe about the system that where we feel like we're enslaved to. We can't implicate another system until we know this system and how it works. Uh, the
Yep.
people the people that are doing these things, uh, just to use an example, war on terror. Okay, who's terror? Nobody. So the loophole is they can create a war on nobody as long as they don't proclaim a certain
Yeah.
country, a certain name. But people see that every day on TV, and
What's crazy too is Terra is Earth. The
yeah.
war on the war on Terra is Terra is Earth.
And just like a big thing I think is the international waters. I believe that's a lot of where they start the weather manipulation. If they're not
Right.
doing if they're not doing weather manipulation on our land, then they're not really breaking any laws because they're starting it out in international waters,
Right.
and then they could
Actually, they're not even
steer it
breaking.
how they want to.
They're not even breaking any laws. Then they do it over land. We've already have congressional hearings about it.
Well, there's supposed to be a
They have
treaty.
their own
There's supposed to be
companies.
a there's supposed to be a treaty that they're not supposed to weather manipulate over your own land or against somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's
well,
to say that it's our government that's
they're
doing the
not
weather
calling it
engineering?
weather
It's not some
manipulation
other.
for the fact
Could be
that
some other government in international
warfare.
waters.
They're calling it the solar protection from uh, the sun. That's what they're doing. They're calling it to cool off for their so-called climate efforts, is what they're calling it, and they're doing it under the guise of that, not under weather warfare. So even though it is weather warfare, they're putting their base coat down under the guise of something else. And so it's that's what I as far as
Well,
what is
Mr.
happening.
Graham, a while ago, you were making a statement. You were saying, how about both groups get together and focus on the bigger things. Can you just elaborate on in your opinion, what is something bigger than the shape of the earth?
Well, gravitational theories being incorrect. EM fields are actually out in the universe dictating, the orbits of planets and the spirals of galaxies, and formation of larger structures and plasmoids and stuff in space. And that the relativity is incorrect. Speed of light is not a constant. Gravity is a modality of the electric effect or the electromagnetism on the subatomic particles, the dipole particles. That's why it's such a weaker force. And the electromagnetism is the stronger force that actually, drives the spin of the, planets that are caught in the electric Birkeland currents. We can see all the plasma connections and magnetic connections over vast distances, where it was said by relativity and, Einstein basically, that space was a void of all of that shit, of electric activity over vast distances, because they didn't know plasma was there as the medium. But now NASA is showing plasma there as the medium. But that's not even the big deal to me, as much as that's bigger than the globe. But that's not as big as a deal as the actual vaccine schedules and things that they're mandatorily imposing on people that are actually epidemically changing their DNA and, uh, causing illnesses that, have no business being imposed on us and stuff. So, with their malfeasance and, corruption in the peer review and government itself as well. We've got Freedom of Information FOIA documents proving that, these people are fraudulent and that they're causing harm to us on a mass scale. And you don't see it in the media and everything. The media is owned by the same banking commissions and conglomerates as the pharmaceuticals, GlaxoSmithKline and them. And so that's why you're not hearing about it. And it's kind of a bigger deal because it's affecting people's ability to even think. Excuse me. I just knocked over that microphone.
Okay. Well,
I can't even think on the.
so let's say for a day that you were a flat earther. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Say for a day that you were a flat earther.
Okay.
What would you try to tell flat earthers? What would you try to let them know to steer towards? Something that you just said. Vaccines, peer review.
Yeah, that's all the same stuff. I do it all the time. I come out here. That's what I try to talk about in flat earth circles. Give me a second. There's all that other stuff. Usually.
We didn't hear any of that, Grim. You've suddenly gone very quiet.
Polarization arguments, team-minded, mob mentality crap, and try to talk about the actual,
Well, there's some slight audio issues going on. I'm going to actually turn them down and do a final plug. This show will run out for about another quarter of an hour. And if you're new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the show, there is a super chat that runs alongside the live show. And if you'd like to join the show to debate the shape of the Earth, click on the link in the info box below this live stream. So as I say, there'll be about 15 minutes more of this show. There's only a couple of rules. Please do not swear. And if you do, you'll be ejected. If you are ejected, rule 2, please only return on the following show. So I'll transition back to these guys. And if you'd like to join, you've got about 15 minutes to do so.
All the study and solitude necessary to digest it. What I think for me the gold at the end of the rainbow is the idea that you're now realizing that you're the most powerful point on creation as far as you are concerned, and that there's no need to it's not about stopping the vaccine industry. It's about making sure that your children maybe don't get a vaccine. That's it. The only thing we can have responsible for, or that we are responsible for, is our own stuff.
And
So
there lies my dilemma, right? Because I'm fighting against a force that is trying to impose mandatory vaccines on all. So what I am doing is fighting for my right to have my own choice. I'm not even
Right, but
fighting against the whole,
right, but it
vac-
reminds me. It reminds me of this one guy. He couldn't cash a check, and they said he couldn't cash a check without giving him the Social Security account number. And they said, "Sorry, we can't cash the check unless you give us the Social Security account number because of the Patriot Act." And long story short, he said, hey, do you mean to tell me, can you show me where the Patriot Act supersedes my rights under Title 42, Section 408A8? And he ended up suing them for 10 grand because they wouldn't cash that check and got his money. And the thing is, because this is where the study has to happen, is that understanding the federal government doesn't have the authority to make you do jack shit. But if you acquiesce, or if you say no, for instance, if you don't consent, for instance, like the nurse in this, you've seen that footage where the cop arrests the nurse because she won't let him arrest the guy, and he goes, "She's the one who told me no." Well, she's the one who didn't consent, so she's the one who's getting arrested. If she'd have turned around and maybe said to the officer, "Hey, I'd love to. Do you have a warrant? If not, let the record show it be against my oath of office to give you anything about this person." But she didn't say that. She said, "No, I don't consent." So they arrested her. And this is where it's this is the biggest thing. We don't even know how to behave. And this is where, after all the study is done and you recognize you're the strength, you're the most powerful point on the thing, then I think we can actually be effective. Without that understanding, it's moot points. Because you can't change the whole herd. You can only go in for yourself. And by example, other people will then learn for themselves. That's the way we do this, in my opinion. Because they don't have the. Yeah, go on, brother.
Well, I was just saying, I agree with you about how the system is set up. Just like you were using that example for that nurse, she was freaking out. She when you're emotional like that, you can't think, and it just seems like she was just so nervous about being arrested, she couldn't think about her rights.
Yep.
And if she would have said, show me a warrant,
terror on the news,
and
you can think about who you should be voting for, what your best interests are, because you're all afraid of all this other crap that isn't even real because it's being forced on you by your own government. You find funding goes back from you to your own government for all of these terrorist organizations. You got to start asking why. Why does the funding start from our own government for all these terrorist organizations? What the hell? At some point,
Well, it's then I would say then go run for office. You know what I mean?
Right.
But let me know how that works out, because it's I just think of it you're messing with a private side
Wasn't
of a
born with that.
company. We're messing with you're messing. It's like I've said before. It's like I'm not even trying to fuck with NASA. I don't give a shit. I don't care, because my thing is that it's like me running into Disneyland, telling all the children that actually Minnie Mouse is a guy from Guatemala. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, it's socially awkward. You know what I mean? Like, granted, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have to happen at some point, I guess. But in reality, that's just I see it as though we're just gonna move on without them. We're just gonna do other shit that they're not involved in. And that, you know what I mean? But they're I think we can control our fate. And this is where the hope lies in it for me. Like, flat earth even is this hopeful thing. It's not this, oh my God, we've been lied to, we need to burn down the system. It's this idea of wait a minute, there's another way to look at this. And that's so crucial, because there's another way to look at the shape of the earth, there's another way to look at, law, there's another way to look at cooking, there's another way to, all kinds of things. There's many ways. But I think we can easily not have a problem with them in that sense, if we understand who we are. Go on, Nathan, you want to say something?
Just going to give you guys a 5-minute warning in a couple of minutes, but if you guys have got some serious points that you need to round out, I'm going to do one last plug and encourage everyone to join, and then, as I say, in about 5 minutes I'll thank the audience for watching. So yeah, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Yeah, I'll do one last plug at the end, but I'll leave you guys to chat. I've done that link a little bit earlier than I was expecting, but thank you for giving me the opportunity, Issa.
Of course, brother. Yeah, man. Thanks. I've probably sworn a couple times and I haven't realized it. So excellent. That's live. But yeah, I think that's why that's why I was really so touched when Carly said what she said to that guy at the questions, because when he said, "Well, what are we gonna do about the enemy?" She was like, "Well, we're gonna teach them a little bit about love and respect." And that's it. And the Bible says, against gentleness and self-control there is no law. And the Bible is a law book. That's why in every courtroom in the US, at least, it says, "In God we trust." It's a law book. It's an ecclesiastical system that believes that you're a child of Adam. So when you walk in there and they say, "Who are you?" and then we say, "Oh, I'm so and so, social security number so and so," and they're like, "Oh, good." Cool. We could throw, we don't care what you say afterwards. But if you understood who you are and maybe understood as the priority security interest holder having an interest in the defendant, maybe, or whatever it is, that's a different status position. We just have never learned about capacity. You have capacity as if you're a mom, you're a mom. If you're, if you're working, you're a worker. If you're, when you're cooking, you're a cook. These are capacity. And I think it's like it'll do us some good to understand capacity, and that we're not locked into it. No one is locked into being a ball earther. No one's locked into being a flat earther. No one's locked into. It's only when we make those kinds of claims that we lock ourselves in there. And now, if we're not brave enough to come out and say when we're wrong, like, if someone's been arguing heliocentrism and then one day they realize, well, wait a minute, fuck it, I'm a flat earther. You know what I mean? But let's say Sean Hufford. You think, how hard would it be for Sean Hufford to come out of the closet as a flat earther after fucking going off on flat earthers for so long? Could he do it?
Shit.
No, usually a guy can't go against what he already knows to be true, even if he believes it or not.
Well,
Right?
well, he's invested so much.
You can clearly see how many. It's like this, man. I mean, we could go over point by point all of the different discrepancies, the different things that made you think that the Earth was flat, and I could show you how I see that as a misrepresentation, every single point by point, and completely understand it too. I mean, I've done this so many different times.
Right, but don't you find it odd that we
line of sight when people think that the 8-inch per square per mile is incorrect and all of that kind of stuff because they're using the horizon line instead of the line of sight as their formula base to start their formula. So of course it's not going to be right because you're not starting from the right position. So there's so many different misconceptions about, you can see, over 180 degrees.
Well, I'll leave it at this. It's an interpretation of the same set of information. That's all that it is.
There's a lot of easy stuff going on there, like, refraction, the laws of refraction, and how those are properly used, and just all of that easy stuff. You're not getting more bottom out of
the thing is that it's obviously there's faults.
No, flat earthers are making videos that are lies. They're talking about, look at that boat, how it's over the horizon when it's actually just smaller than a pixel, and not over the horizon. It's smaller than a pixel. So it disappears out of your camera view because
And why are they telling us it went over the curve of the earth?
And they're telling you it went over the curve of the earth. Flat earthers, I'm saying. And then they say, look, and then they focus back in on it or zoom in on it, and it appears.
But Grim, they told us that it was over the curve of the earth.
No, they told you. The flat earthers are telling you in their Eric Dubai videos and shit that their boats are over the horizon. I can show you every single one of them, dude. How it's smaller than a pixel,
dude,
and so it disappears. It's not over the horizon.
Do you not remember Bill Nye and all those episodes?
I'm sorry, what?
Of showing you how a boat goes. Do you not remember all the episodes of Bill Nye and how he was showing you on a board how the boat goes over the curvature?
Bill Nye.
I mean, that's not something that flat earthers came and said that not happening. That's what we were taught.
No, see, that's the thing. You're misrepresenting what I'm talking about again. It's hard for a complex conversation. Listen, what I'm saying is flat earthers are making videos of boats that are not going over the horizon, but they're telling you they are, because they are getting smaller than 1 pixel and disappearing at the line of the horizon. They're saying it's over the horizon. It's not over the horizon. So they're misrepresenting what Bill Nye was demonstrating. That's what I'm trying to say. It's dishonesty. Okay. Same with the stars, the twinkly stars. This is what the stars really look like videos. No, this is how you misrepresent the manual focus on a P900. You don't know how to use the manual focus. They're using autofocus.
Yeah, but
right?
that's 2 separate
And then when
points.
you tell them,
Hold on,
and you
no, no,
demonstrate to them
those are
how to
2
fix
separate
that.
issues.
They don't take the
Graham,
videos
those are
down.
2 separate. Oh God. Okay, yeah, they say that. Like, granted, flat earthers make dumb videos and shit. But the point is that they taught us that the boats went over the curvature of the Earth, and the thing is that we have come out and we've said, wait a minute, this is bullshit due to the update in the ability of optics.
No,
This is the
no
point,
one
and
has
that's why,
ever demonstrated that it's
regardless of your
bullshit.
opinion
That's what I'm
about
trying to
it,
tell you. They've made false demonstration. I've watched it.
okay. I
I
don't know
actually,
what video. I don't know who you're referring to. The point is that, like,
Hey, Grim, just let him answer. Let him answer.
well, just this idea that they've
We are.
told us a certain set of information that we have come to realize there are other answers for, much as you have, Grim. Now, the thing is that some of us have settled into certain camps, and the point is that, like, in a way, it's healthy to do so. And at the same time, one has to remain and have a door open so that the mind is never closed.
right.
Many people on all sides of this conversation have closed the doors. Like, they won't watch a Wolfie video or they won't watch a whatever video because they've closed a certain door to them. Some of these people deserve it too. But the point is that we have to remain skeptical even of our own beliefs and questioning of our own self. That is the epitome of the
Right.
scientific method.
But there's a point. There's a point when you actually have already done that, though, right? That you can finally say, okay, now
Well,
I
I'm
have
a flat earther
empirical
because I did it.
evidence
I'm a
to
flat earther
show.
because I got a P900 and I could zoom in on boats and people try to tell me that shit's over the curvature. That's
See
why
what
I
I'm
look at it
saying?
like right now. It's like
You
prove
want to
otherwise.
really
Infinite brain
test your
said prove
P900?
otherwise.
Want to really test your P900?
I'll tell you,
Find an
tested the
object.
heliocentric
Find an
model
object that already is over
or
the
the flat Earth
horizon.
thing or the round Earth anyway. It
Right,
broke
right.
me.
I can show you. I can demonstrate you one right now. We can show you with the telescope right now that no more of what's over the horizon ever shows up when you magnify in on it with a
Yeah,
telescope.
but the atmospheric conditions and the
No
angle
atmospheric
of incidence,
conditions.
there's
No,
a
it
whole bunch
doesn't.
of. The point is that there's a
Hey,
whole bunch of other answers.
There isn't. That's what
hey,
I'm trying
Grim.
to say. It's multiple
Only if you
demonstrations.
shut your only if you shut your mind to it. Yeah.
No, you don't. You don't open your mind so much that the maggots settle in, right? You don't just open your mind and you allow, you know what I'm saying, ridiculousness.
Or you don't. How about this though? But you don't want. Yeah, but how
I
about
don't
this?
mean to
You
be
don't.
rude. Damn it, I don't mean
Yeah,
it like
you,
that.
you don't want to
Uh,
be a slave who thinks your mind's open though.
no, once you understand the physics, though, your mind isn't closed. It is open, but it received the correct information, not being.
And with that, I'm going to say a final, massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you who have joined us in the live audience for this debate. If you are new to Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Future debates will be posted periodically, and if you'd like to join those debates, click on the link in the info box below this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.